Can you just describe for me what it is that you do?
I help create the content for our U.S. social impact initiatives.
Could you give me a little bit of your background?
I studied education in my master's. I actually have 18 years of experience creating all of these materials for particularly difficult topics. I would say that social emotional development is my area of expertise.
And you have a background in education.
International educational development is really... I started in the international department and then I moved to the domestic one.
I'll start by asking you a little bit about the topic of aggression. Why was this something that you and your colleagues felt was important to cover?
Well, when children are developing, particularly at this age, there is a lot of aggression. And parents are concerned about these aggressive behaviors and how to control them. And one of the things that actually we've heard a lot from parents is, what do I do when my child is doing these aggressive behaviors? Is this normal? And so for us it was important to address it, but also understand or create an understanding that aggression is part of development and that yes, it is normal and it's okay for kids to try to express themselves this way until us as adults give them a different way of communicating their emotions.
When you're talking about aggression, are there a couple of different types, and can you describe what they are?
There is physical aggression, which is very common in preschoolers, and this is hitting and pushing and shoving. There's also relational aggression, which in that case is excluding kids or teasing them. Verbal aggression is verbal, obviously, and in that one there is more teasing and also name calling sometimes. That is less likely to happen in preschool settings in the way that we imagine it. Usually verbal aggression is also harder to pinpoint for adults because it happens while the kids are playing in the playground and sometimes adults are not paying as much attention to those relations. So verbal and relational aggressions are kind of harder to observe.
Do the verbal aggressions and the relational aggressions sometimes overlap, and are those sometimes behaviors of slightly older children?
I would say that verbal aggression is not necessarily that it's older children. Young children can say things that are mean to one another, unfortunately. But it comes from a different place, right? What happens with older kids is that the intention of those aggressions are different. And that's when you see aggressions that are co-occurring or that have victims in them, right? Like as they grow older, those intentions and the power struggles are a lot more complicated. When it comes to preschoolers, that is less likely to happen, to have an intention of hurting other people. It's more, I really want that crayon, and so that's why I'm telling you this, or today I really want to play with this friend and not you. And it doesn't come from a place of wanting to hurt. It comes from a place of, I don't know how to handle this conflict.
How important is it that parents identify these aggressions or pay attention to them early on? How much of this is normal child development, and at what point do parents need to start to be aware of the fact that this is going on?
It's important for parents to notice aggression because it is a part of communication. You can imagine a child that is still developing their verbal skills. There's behaviors is really what they have to communicate what they need and what they want. And so it is important for parents to understand that behavior is a form of communication and aggression is an important part of that. So I wouldn't say, oh, this is completely normal, I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. It's more, this is completely normal, let me pay attention so that I know what my child needs from me.
What can parents do?
For all aggressive behavior, the first thing to do is to help the child use words, right? But in order for them to be able to use the words, they need to be given those words. So modeling feeling words with your children, even as young as 2, is helpful. And a 2-year-old might not be saying the words, but at least they're noticing, oh, there are other ways of expressing my emotions other than hitting or using other types of aggression, right? It's also important for them to know, particularly with hitting and, well, actually with all of them, what is a behavior that is acceptable and what is not. And it's okay to let them know, no, we don't do that. We don't hit others. It's okay. But this is after really establishing that the hitting comes from the place of having a feeling that they need to be, that needs to be addressed.
When you say model some of these words, could you give me some examples of some words that parents can pull out of their toolbox?
When it comes to words, we actually have developed some materials on resiliency, and we've broken down 3 categories of intensities. The happy words are happy, excited, joyful. The angry words can be angry, frustrated, mad. There's also words that are sad words. And we go even to miserable in those sad words, because sometimes when you're very sick, you feel miserable, and that's okay. Yeah. So we try to provide children with a range of vocabulary, so they know also that yes, the feelings come and go. They're different types of feelings, but they're different intensities of these emotions, and we usually react depending on that intensity.
You and your colleagues developed a show featuring Big Bird.
Yes.
And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, the relational aggression that we see in that episode is actually very specific, because that one has an intention to hurt. We have Big Bird that wants to be part of a Big Bird club. Actually, it's a Good Birds Club, I should say. And some birds do not want him to be part of it. And they tease him and give him reasons why he shouldn't be part of it, like he's too big, or his feet are too big, he's the wrong color. And it is Abby and Elmo who notice that this is happening, and they look for help. They look for Chris, who is the adult in the room, helping us understand that when something like this happens, when it's intentional and there's a power differential, we need to report it and go back to the adults and look for help.
How does it all resolve?
Chris does come in, and they sing that they're happy to be who they are, and the aggressor gets some help from Chris. But the important part, in not only in the episode, but when you see these type of more complicated types of aggression, is that first you have to look for an adult and ask for help, and make sure that the kids know that reporting is part of problem solving. They're not tattling on their classmates, they are reporting, and that's important. And for the adults to know what to do next. And one of the things is to understand that they first need to observe that there are different perspectives to the situation. And so they need to observe to see what's going on, understand what the different perspectives are, and then based on those observations, help children resolve the conflict.
Do you have any tips or advice for parents when a child approaches you and says this is going on?
I was going to say it depends on the adult, right? If it is a parent, sometimes many of these situations happen in preschool programs or in educational settings. And I would say go to a third party, go to that teacher and explain what it is that your child has told you. Don't try to go directly to the parent himself or herself. Because there are different perspectives to what happened, and it's important for another person to not only take in what you have observed or what you were told, but also continue to investigate the situation. Afterwards, there are different things that you can do for both the child that is a victim and also the child that is the aggressor. For the victim, it's important for them to know that it's not their fault, that asking for help is okay. It's actually an important part of resolving the situation. And to also understand that they have other friends, that they can get power back. They can be empowered by looking for other friends and having those relationships being strong friendship relationships. When it comes to the aggressor, it's important to also help them, right? They are asking for help too. And so look for the transitions or the challenges that they might be having in their lives. What is going on? This kid is asking for help. And so that help should be provided by the adult.
How easy is it, or common is it rather, for parents to say, that's normal kid behavior? Is this something that is easily overlooked?
It is, particularly because you don't expect preschoolers to experience something like this and for it to be reoccurring in this intentional way. But I think that what happens also is that parents jump into conclusions, right? You hear from your child that he's or her is hurt, or you hear stories, and the first thing that you want to do is resolve it yourself. And so it is very important to step back, take a deep breath, and then the same way that we teach the kids to use their feeling words and to calm down when a conflict arises, we have to practice that as well.
Why is it important to get resolution early on, or to identify these behaviors early on and have parents or caregivers or adults intervene?
Aggression in general, it's important to address it because it is your trusting relationship that you're establishing with your child is a part of communication. When it comes to this type of victimization, it can have repercussions for the kids, particularly the victims, and for the kids that are indirectly affected by it. So you want to have a community of children that understand what friendship looks like, true friendship looks like, and addressing these situations early on can help de-escalate it and make sure that everybody feels comfortable and safe.
Is there anything I didn't ask you about the curriculum or the content regarding aggression that you would want people to know?
I think that people wait until there is a intense aggressive behavior to address aggressiveness in children. And what I would say is that prevention is the most important tool that we have, and talking about feelings is one of those things. Talking about friendships, the fact that you don't have to agree always with your friends and still be friends. Also having realistic expectations of the social emotional development of young kids is important. You cannot expect a 2-year-old to be an expert in sharing. So don't put him in situations where conflicts can arise, where they have to share so much, have many different things they can play with. It's important for us to understand where they are developmentally and address those aggressive behaviors that might arise before it becomes something bigger later on.